Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 5. For those who missed this activity, I'm doing a recording just for you. I did not record the class activity because we might tend to talk about things that are not for public viewing. So they can only be talked about in the here and now, which is our activity for today. There are going to be 2 activities and 1 practice activity in preparation for next week. So I hope you guys tried your best to replicate what I've sent in the email. If not, you may also just print them. It's okay to just print them in bond paper. You can post or paste this page in your art journal. Okay, so this activity does not need paint. You may use just ball pen or pencil, water pencil, colored pencil, maybe black or something dark, possibly black. All right, let me share my screen. Welcome, activity 1. So the first one we're going to do is we are going to be listening to the directive before you start your page. Okay, so start with a goal. Usually when we start an art as therapy activity, we usually have a goal in mind. Your goal will give you the direction you need. So today's goal can be simple. It could be just for mindfulness or meditation, to be present in the here and now. It could be as simple as that. So this activity is actually very good for mindfulness and meditation. So what is this mindfulness anyway? Mindfulness is a state of being conscious or aware. It's a mental state achieved by focusing one's awareness on the present moment, one's feelings, thoughts, and bodily sensations. So in art therapy, we use this technique to focus on the here and now, to be present here and now. Okay, so you need to be aware of your surrounding, of yourself, mostly of ourselves, what we're feeling, what we're thinking, what sensations we feel, not just in our head, but, is it cold? Is it hot? Is it windy? Okay, so if you've downloaded this pattern, please start. If you don't have a printer, you can try your best to replicate it. You don't have to be very exact. Just try your best to replicate these random circles on the page. They are random, just so you know. They are random. So if you are just replicating it and it's not exact, it's okay. I made them randomly through a computer program. Okay, so the instructions are you will be designing patterns in each of the space provided. Be creative in each of the space, be aware of the lines, and focus on discernible patterns. Okay, so I'm going to start. I'm going to make some patterns. So I'm going to start with these petal patterns. You can call them petals, you can call them grapes, as long as they are very discernible patterns. Now, why is this a mindful activity? Mindful activities are often repetitive because it focuses on the here and the now. You are focusing on what's happening. So you're not really painting a portrait where you are focusing on just the portrait. You are focusing on what your feelings towards this pattern is, what the pattern actually is, what do you feel inside, what do you feel outside. So I'm gonna randomize my pattern. There is no rhyme or reason to this, just so you know, as long as I said, as long as it is a pattern. So I have a technique here. I'm going to start with simple patterns first. You can download this and print it as many times as you want so you can experiment on the patterns. Okay, so you can get complicated later. At the moment, if this is your first time doing this, I do suggest that you start with very simple patterns. Okay, so start with lines, squares, petals, swirls, things like that. You can even do hearts, mosaic tiles, and things like that. So geometric patterns is very easy to do, very easy to replicate, and it's something very natural, of course. So that's my suggestion. Start with something simple. Geometric will be something very simple. You could also do something very organic. So here I have something very organic here. I'm just doing these lines. You may break up the circle into different smaller lines in it, just so it's not one big blob, but you can, by the way, you can. So here, what I'm doing is I'm gonna do these patterns that will follow this pinwheel. Okay, so it's not perfect. It's okay. It's okay if it's not perfect. It's actually hard to draw at the same time, hold your recording device. And it's quite windy. All right, so these are some of the patterns that you could actually make. So these are some of them. They could be complex. Some of them could be easy. It will be up to you what your skill level is. There's no right or wrong here. Okay, so you could also freehand some of the patterns like these. See, so for the bigger circle, maybe you could do this freehand pattern like this. So up to you actually what you want to do with it. Okay, so while we are doing this, please be present in the here and now. Why do we have to be present in the here and now? We have to be present in what we will be focusing on. Why? Because focusing on something enhances or enforces what we're doing. So if you're focusing on positive vibes, you're focusing on, I want to be feeling good today. Maybe you can represent those patterns into something nice, maybe something organic, something vibrant. So if you do a lot of contrasting dark and light patterns, it makes things dynamic. Your eyes will be very busy. It makes things like jump out of the page, so to speak. All right, so try a lot of organic shapes, try to experiment. You could mix organic shapes and geometric shapes. So I'm just gonna continue with my pattern. By the way, I've turned fishes into patterns. So you could do this. You could make flowers as a pattern, bubbles, ocean sea waves, leaves. You could also do leaves as a pattern. All right, so here I've done this type of pattern. So I'm actually experimenting on these. I might do a different one later, which is good, which is good. You guys can do that too. Experiment on this. This activity just focuses on mindfulness. You can even use this as a meditation tool. So if you don't want to focus on anything, you just want to keep things blank. So mindfulness is when you are focusing on something, and meditation is when you don't want to concentrate on a lot of things. Just try to clear your mind and just do pattern, 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 pattern. Okay? So you can do that as well. So here it is, my finished product. I have different patterns all around my circles. So each space actually has a different pattern. So here it is. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's okay. As I said, you can print some more, experiment on some more. Maybe as you experiment, then you can figure out what you want. Make them by theme, maybe. Make them by color. Maybe you can color them, but just make sure you are doing patterns. These are Zen patterns, by the way. Zen patterns is used often, usually for meditative drawing. You know, some people do adult coloring book as a form of meditation. This one you can use instead of adult coloring book. So please upload your work to Padlet. Now let's get right on activity 2. So for activity 2, it is related. The reason why I asked you guys to do activity 1 is actually for practice. So if you're not yet done with activity 1, you may pause this video. And if you're ready for activity 2, then we will get right on it. This is a follow along activity. Okay, so get your paper on. You need coloring materials. You may choose any coloring materials that you need. If you are going to be using watercolor, I suggest you use watercolor paper. You don't need to use canvas yet. Watercolor paper would be okay. If you're going to use pencil color or crayon, you could go straight to your art journal and do it there. Now use a blank paper. This messy backdrop over here is actually my studio. I have this lining here so the paint won't go through the table. So let's start with a blank paper. In this case, this is a watercolor paper because I chose to use acrylic. Okay, so put your hand in the middle like that and trace it. You may choose to trace with a ball pen, a pencil color, or marker. Since I am going to be using watercolor and acrylic, I'm using Sharpie because once Sharpie dries, it's not going to blotch. It's not going to run on the page. Okay, so if there's breaks on the lines, that's fine. You could just do that. Now, what we're going to do in each finger is we're going to think of our best attributes. 5 best attributes. Start with I am. I am, then write it. So I'm going to say, I am smart. I am creative. I am responsible. So you can really think of things that you want. In this case, I am lovable. Here I'm going to put I'm responsible. And then for the last one, I think I'm going to put I am spiritual. Now, our activity is not going to end here. As I said, the first activity will relate to the second activity, this one. So, once you have this, you may begin to color it first. So, I'm going to start coloring it. By the way, you have to think of your best attributes well, okay? They're adjectives, not verbs or nouns, okay? They are your best traits, okay? So you can think, are you responsible, lovable, interesting, dependable, friendly, diligent, studious, loyal, emphatic, disciplined, mature, fair, understanding, considerate? Think of this well, okay? Self-edit yourself. 5, no more, no less. Why? Because you have to know yourself well. Not what other people will say. Although what other people will say can have an influence on that. I want you guys to see your best attributes about yourself. Why? Because you can either change them or affirm them. Maybe sometimes people say, you're so mature for your age. You don't think that's really what you are. Then you can change that. What do you feel like if you don't feel like you're mature about yourself? Maybe you feel like because I'm responsible, that's why people think I'm mature. Because I'm dependable, that's why people think I'm mature. Then you change it. And there are some things that we want to affirm about ourselves. Maybe we're friendly. That's my best trait. I'm very friendly. I've encountered people who are very, very friendly, and that is their best trait. Okay, so make sure they are positive. Okay, don't put things like workaholic. Uh, the thing about workaholics are it is a trait that we have glorified today, but it's actually not a positive thing. So don't put things like chocoholic, workaholic, shoppingholic. No, no, no. And don't even say foodie. I'm a foodie. That's my best trait. No, you could be a connoisseur, you know? So think of the things that is positive, okay? And they are about you. So if your friend, cousin, mom, dad, sibling comes in and sees you working on this and sees there that you put I'm smart and they said, are you really? Don't listen to them. If you feel that is your best attribute, then we will affirm this attribute. Okay. Excuse me. So now I'm going to paint it. Unfortunately, I'm using acrylic and it has hidden some of the things that I wrote. See, it's not clear anymore. And even if I tried to take out as much paint as I can, and not working so well. See, I can't read it, but that's okay. That's okay. You know what? Once it's all dry, I'm going to come back to it with my Sharpie. Okay, so it's okay if you're using paint and you can't see what you've written there, but you know what you've written there. Um, you can always just change it. Okay, so colors as well. So I was thinking everything's green, maybe not. Type of green I don't like. So I'm gonna put like this light blue on top of it. So it's not something very um, similar in color. You may also, of course, go back to our first week's activity and think of that very well. Okay, so think of that activity very well and use the colors as emotion. Remember, I asked you guys to put a color to your emotion. You may use that as well. You can attribute an emotion to this. And if you haven't put an emotion to the color yet, well, you can put an attribute to the color. So let me show you this. After I've colored it, so I waited a bit. I did this in the morning and then I waited till the afternoon till it's dry. So that's the one thing I like about acrylic. It dries fast. So for watercolor, it's going to be the same. Use less water if you want it to dry faster. Okay. So leave it outdoor under the sun if you want it to dry even faster. Okay. Now that I've had that, I went back with my marker and I just put on top of it just so I can read the words again. I even retraced the hand so it's nice and thick lines. Then we come back to activity 1. Remember, we have tried our best to do some Zen patterns. That's what you're going to do here. Okay? So this time, it's not just some random pattern. This time, you're really going to be thinking of the patterns well. Okay, so first activity was just an activity for exercise. You can use that for meditation, but this one is really mindfulness because you're really going to think about it a lot. So for resourcefulness, what I did is I equated it to this jungle-like pattern. By the way, this is trunk of the trees. I know it's like weird, but I saw this Tarzan uh, backdrops, that Disney Tarzan, where their trunks is like long and curving. So I kind of replicated that into turning it into patterns. So you know how in the jungle you have to be resourceful. So that's what I attributed to resourcefulness. So I am creative. So what I put here are petal patterns because I'm creative that way. A different petal, a different creative genius, creative spark. For lovable, of course, I put heart. For responsible, I put fish scales. Fish scales actually has a deep meaning for me. I will tell you guys what that meaning is maybe when we have more time. But let's just say personally, I have these deep feelings about responsibility and fishes. So here it is. From just this painted, now I have this, which I have painted, put patterns, put some decoration. So you could also decorate the whole page. So I put this thing where it looks like an aura emanating out. So you could do this too, or you could put more patterns on the outside. Totally up to you. When you're done, please put this in your art journal. Okay, so you can post it there unless you're doing it in your art journal already, which is good. You don't have to transfer it anywhere else. If not, you could just paste it there. So time for an assignment. Sorry, teacher Maita will give you guys an assignment, but it's really a simple one, promise. I hope you download this page. If not, you could just try to replicate as best as you can on a paper or on your art journal. Here's what I want you guys to do. That's me. Next week, we will be doing neurographic art again. Okay, so this time you're going to have to practice really well. The thing about neurographic art is it's not just about putting neuro points in each of the corners. You actually have to soften the lines, making sure you don't have any corners. If you have to thicken the lines, so be it, but don't just leave it as that. Okay. So if there are any more questions, you may email it to me. I will send you the link for Padlet. Thank you guys for joining this. See you again next week.